Okay, so this is kind of a long video. This is like almost 50 minutes. And that is insane to me. I'm not even gonna edit the intro in anymore at this point. This video is just insane. In this video, basically, I am debunking Seth and Swag's video about Minato versus Tobirama, where they seem to be pretty biased in favor of Minato. I'm not even talking about the conclusions they draw. I'm talking about the way they talk about the characters. Like, they talk about Minato like he's a freaking god, like he's stronger than, I don't know, like he's like the sage of the six paths, bro. He's like, he beats Ishiki easily. And Tobirama, yeah, he would lose to Kid Konohamaru or something. Like, you need to listen to them how they talk. That's why in this video I'm gonna play their clips, and then I'm gonna talk, give my response to it instead of just going point after point. I'm gonna let them make their points. I'm gonna put their points in the video so you understand what I'm responding to, so people don't think I'm like strawmanning or anything. So yeah, let's get into it.
Minato is just literally Tobirama's upgrade. Like, you know how Kakashi's always like, the next generation will surpass you, as he's looking down on Kakuzu and he stabs him? It's like, Minato is just next gen improved Tobirama.
I don't understand if this is supposed to be an argument. If it's not, that's fine. He just said a thing for no reason. But if it's supposed to be an argument, what does that really even mean? I mean, is Jiraiya stronger than Hashirama because he's the next generation? That doesn't seem to be a rule. It just seems to be something that often happens.
Like, Minato gets taught, like, Jiraiya thought that Nagato was the chosen one, and then he considered that it might actually be Minato. The Raikage talks about him like he could have saved the world. Hiruzen seems to think, at least for some amount of time, that Minato might have been like the strongest Hokage. Like, he doesn't say like, oh, if Hashirama was here, or like if either of the Senju brothers were here.
Yeah, except that's not true. Like, Hiruzen doesn't say that. It's Uncle who says that, so that's one. Also, they mention him specifically and not the other Hokage, because the other Hokage died like 50 years ago, whereas Minato died a few years back, and he was very young when he died. That's why they mentioned, because he would have been Hokage at this time. Hashirama and Tobirama would have probably been dead, if not 100 years old by this point.
He tried to put down that Minato coffin real quick.
Yeah, he saw the Hashirama and Tobirama coffins, and he was like, well, this might be tough. And then he saw the Minato coffin
yeah, he
come up,
freaked
and it was...
out, started sweating, like, oh god, I gotta stop that one.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's an interpretation of it. Or it could also be that he just doesn't want to fight 4 people. He only wants to fight 3, because 3 is already enough, so he must stop him from making a 4v1. Also, wouldn't this make Minato also stronger than Hashirama, not only Tobirama? You see, they do this thing in the video where they mention a thing that applies to both Tobirama and Hashirama, and how Minato is like technically better than them or stronger or whatever, but they only apply it to Tobirama, because they know it's kind of silly to say that Minato beats Hashirama.
I don't think he's stronger than Hashirama or something.
Yeah,
but like,
I agree. I don't think he's stronger than Hashirama.
That's something Hiruzen did say, you know. Like.
So again, you don't think Minato is stronger than Hashirama, or at least you say you don't. But you bring up Hiruzen mentioning it as a point earlier, and now you're saying the point doesn't actually stand because you disagree with it, but actually it only applies to Tobirama. What?
Like, just because he's not stronger than like the 2 strongest pre-Six Paths characters in the whole verse doesn't mean that he's like ass or anything, right? Like, he's pretty much right on the cusp of that level.
I mean, that's not even true. The levels are far different than you make them sound, because on one hand, Minato was struggling with teleporting 1 Biju Bomb, and he was already kind of getting weaker from that, whereas Madara and Hashirama were fighting while Madara's Susanoo Kurama thing was spamming Biju Bombs like it was nothing, like it was like fire style jutsu or something, right? And keep in mind, Minato based his Rasengan on a Biju Bomb. Well, Hashirama's golem was using Bijou bombs as a Rasengan. And while Minato was getting impaled by like the pinky of the Ninetales, Hashirama was strong enough to pick it up like it was some fucking pet from a pet store or something, like he was choosing it for his wife, which I mean he kinda did, but you get what I'm saying. The difference in power here is immense. It's not even close. I don't know what you're talking about, at least when it comes to destruction and output.
Swagkage say, I've never been able to imagine him being surpassed.
Yeah, they're like
anybody
did it, and it's the general sentiment of it is just that it's either he doesn't think anyone will ever come along that will surpass Minato, or more commonly, he doesn't think there existed or will exist a better shinobi than Minato.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we know he's famous for being correct. Keep in mind, the Raikage also considers himself, well, also the data book, but he considers himself to be like Minato's equal, right? Also, they have fought multiple times as well. So, is Raikage that great as well? Also, he's wrong about multiple things. He considers himself to be the fastest, but like, KCM Naruto just surpasses him like 5 seconds after he says that. Also, Obito exists. Also, Kabuto exists at this moment. EMS Sasuke just happened, meanwhile. So, is he really the fastest? No. And also, there's other people who scaled to him or above him in the war that are still alive right now, or at least on the battlefield, and he still says, oh, I'm the fastest in the world or some shit. But he's obviously not, because we know he's not, so he's wrong. He also thinks he's gonna beat the fuck out of B, but then B overpowers him. Wrong again. There's multiple points in time where this guy is wrong. I mean, he literally says he's the fastest after he already fought Obito, who dodged his attack, or at least kamui'd from his attack easily. And Sasuke, who at a point where he was weaker, was able to react to him. So like, how does that work? Also, if it was to take Raikage's word for it, it still would mean that Hashirama is also not as strong as Minato. If you think Tobirama is not as strong as Minato, you also include Hashirama in that, or Prime Hiruzen, which I don't think the Raikage doesn't even have really that much information on any of those guys. He hasn't fought any of them. He hasn't fought Tobirama, hasn't fought Hashirama, hasn't fought Prime Hiruzen. So how the hell would he know? Would he have the information that he's stronger than all these people in their primes or whatever? Doesn't really make sense. And again, he's definitely not stronger than Hashirama. So the statement, it's still incorrect.
The best statement for him is Madara saying, like, after, by the way, this is not in like, it's not a good looking moment for Tobirama. Like most of the time when Minato is getting praised or hyped up, it's either by somebody who wishes he was there to help or after he does something really cool. But Tobirama, Madara throws this compliment at him out of spite, like while he's on the ground, pinned down by a bunch of Rinnegan rods and can't move or do anything.
The reason why people have said about this video that it seems to be highly biased in the favor of Minato is because things like this. Every time they talk about Minato, they talk about his statements, which a lot of them are pretty vague, like he's a fine shinobi or whatever, and they hype them up like there's the biggest thing ever. And then when they even give a feat or a statement or something to Tobirama, they have to be like, it's not a good look for him. Oh my god, this guy sucks. Minato's cool, but Tobirama sucks. But here's the statement. It's like, we can tell that you like Minato so much more than Tobirama just because of how you talk about him. It's not even about who you think wins. We can tell it's not that you just disagree. You're obviously biased because of how you talk about those subjects. Like, it's very obvious to anyone who doesn't come in with a bias against, for Minato or Tobirama.
And he's just like, you who used to be hailed as the fastest shinobi, and it's just like, I mean, like, that could mean like anything, right?
No, it can't mean anything. What are you talking about? You see how they did that? They take statements about Minato being a great shinobi or an unparalleled shinobi, statements which essentially don't mean really anything, and they hype him up as being the strongest ever or something. And when Tobirama has a clear statement from Madara saying he was the fastest shinobi of his time, which clearly talks about when Madara was alive, because why the fuck he would talk about when Madara was already dead or when Madara wasn't there to fight? Why would he talk about times after Madara and Hashirama died or something? That doesn't make any sense, right? Which is my opinion, basically, that Tobirama was probably faster than them, but they were like stronger, so they would beat him, but he was like still faster. But aside from that, how do you take a statement from Madara Uchiha saying he was the fastest and you're like brushing it off like it was nothing, but the bum-ass Raikage, who claims to be the fastest of his time himself, even though there were people faster than him during his lifetime, you take his like statement as like, oh, this is great, this is a great feat for Minato. But from Madara Uchiha, you're like, no, that shit's ass, that shit's like not a good statement at all. Like, what?
His Shunshin being better than Tobirama's, which is also demonstrated, by the way, by the fact that he gets there before any of them do.
Teleports a 10 Tails Bijou Bomb as well before they get there.
Exactly. That just means that Minato is faster than him, right? So...
Okay, again, did you see how they ignored Hashirama, even though their statement would also imply that he is faster than Hashirama, but you don't see them mentioning he's faster than Hashirama? So, is he faster than Hashirama as well? He's faster than Hashirama, Tobirama, and Hiruzen? Or, which is the most likely interpretation, is that he's not faster than all those guys, or maybe probably faster than Hiruzen, but he's faster when it comes to travel, because traveling and fighting are not the same fucking thing.
Number 2 is Tobirama has no AP feat at all, other than fighting suppressed old Hiruzen. Now, suppressed old Hiruzen, Hiruzen is like wanked off by Kabuto as like the strongest current of the Go Kage.
The AP thing is wrong, and you'll see why in a second, but also I like how they talk about Hiruzen, because in this situation it helps the scaling for Tobirama. He has to be like, oh, Kabuto wanked him to that level, when in other videos he literally says that that's just a true statement. So I don't know, a little bit of a funny thing.
So at best, what this would do is put him above, like, and I mean, this is being very generous. This would put him above War Onoki, War A the Fourth, and War Mei, because
I mean, even that AP is actually pretty good for Minato, because keep in mind, he has fought A few times, and A was strong enough that if Minato wasn't dodging his attacks, he would have obviously at the very least hurt him. Not to mention the fact that he and B were about to kill each other, meaning that B must have a attack with his sword and stuff at least comparable to Minato's durability, because they were about to kill each other essentially. So it means that B and Raikage were pretty relative to Minato, so even scaling above the Raikage or to the Raikage would be about enough to be able to hurt Minato anyway. Not to mention that this was the shitty version of the Edo Tensei, so it basically is so shitty that it made Hashirama from Hashirama level to Orochimaru level. So if the nerf is comparable with Tobirama, right, that means that even this nerfed version is pretty comparable to Minato, at least in some regards. So that's kind of funny that they mentioned that. Not to mention that Minato doesn't have any durability. He doesn't have any durability feats. And if you can find any for me, please do.
Onoki seemed... Now, this mostly comes from anime filler, but if you take anime filler seriously, Onoki seemed pretty scared of Jonin Minato. Like, you know, Minato was just, like, single-handedly dealing with, like, platoons of stone shinobi, and it's not like Onoki ever tracked him down and killed him or whatever.
First of all, him defeating a lot of shinobi who are nameless and we don't know anything about them is not that good of a feat. Those could be Hokage level or could be Genin level. We have no clue. Second of all, I like how you take arguments that include anime filler for Minato, but when it comes to Tobirama, you wouldn't even take stuff that actually happened or was shown in the manga. That's quite something.
A, as we've said, looked up to him. I mean, like, we don't even have to talk about this. A thought that Minato was so strong that no one would ever come along to surpass him.
Yeah, and he also thought that both he and Minato are the fastest ever or something, and that nobody would surpass them. And then Naruto literally surpasses him in the next chapter. So he's not the most trustworthy person. Not to mention that he says he fought Minato multiple times, many times to be specific, right? Which means they had a lot of encounters and neither of them died from those encounters, meaning that they must have at least been able to fight each other, meaning that Minato must be somewhere in the range of the Raikage. And that's not only my opinion, it's what even the data book says about them. And it's arguable that Raikage even got faster or stronger since then, because we see that he continues training every day.
Minato is just out there, like, he just casually cuts off one of B's tentacles.
Which we've seen those, like, partial transformation catch a Bijou bomb before, so they're actually pretty tough.
Minato is able to, like, blow up Obito's arm when he fights him during the Ninetales attack.
That's a little bit of a false equivalence, isn't it? To compare a partial transformation that is comparable in size to B's body to a partial transformation which is big enough to catch a Bijou bomb. I feel like the difference in size and strength is there, or as it should be. But that's just my opinion. If you have an argument against that, I'm fine to hear it. Also, he just did that to a 14-year-old Obito, and he didn't even do it to his durability. He did it to the Zetsu part of his body, which doesn't scale to his actual durability. Because if it did, then his back would have been destroyed, or his other arm would have been destroyed. But no, it was just the Zetsu part which was destroyed, meaning that the Zetsu arm just has lower durability than the rest of his body.
I think another thing that kind of supports that, like, Minato really is that level is that we know Minato is objectively faster than Hiruzen. Like, it's actually stated he is the younger Hiruzen. We know that younger Hiruzen's a lot faster. So, like, 13 years ago Hiruzen. So, like, he's pretty young, actually. Like, he's probably on, like, the cusp of, you know, like, degrading or whatever. But he's clearly a lot stronger, right? He is a godlike speed compared to Hiruzen. He is the greatest. Yeah. And then we see later that in the war, as an old Edo, Hiruzen is stated to be above Tobirama as an old Edo. Like,
I mean, no, I don't know if there's another statement, but it's not what you shown on screen. What you shown on screen was the statement that young Hiruzen, not old Hiruzen, but that, like, the young version of Hiruzen is more skilled. Even if it was talking about Edo Tensei, it was talking about skill, not strength or speed. So that doesn't really mean anything. I don't know why you even brought this up. Not that, like, younger Hiruzen does have any, like, crazy speed feats outside of, like, maybe being above the Raikage or something, which the Minato already scales or slightly above the Raikage and Hiruzen already, so it doesn't really matter.
Help Naruto before Tobirama can as well, and which implies, you know, also, like, furthers that. And there's
yeah, and you know who's also there? KCM Minato. So how does that even help you? It just means that Hiruzen is somehow faster than both Minato and Tobirama, which, I mean, I think it's funny, so I go along with it if you want, but I don't think you would agree with that.
There's also the statements, you know, Hiruzen is above, you know, his predecessors, which is probably talking about Tobirama.
Oh yes, on this page where it shows Hashirama, it was talking about Tobirama. Whoever edited this is amazing, because I love how they're like, yeah, it's definitely talking about Tobirama in this scan, about the predecessors, while literally showing Hashirama in the picture. Again, you are saying that because this picture refers to both Hashirama and Tobirama, this scan is referring to both of them. So again, you are saying that Tobirama and Hashirama are both weaker and slower than Hiruzen and Minato? Is that what I'm hearing essentially?
And again, even if, like, again, we're not saying that Minato's above Hashirama.
I mean, yeah, you kind of are saying that, actually.
Maybe it's just recency bias, whatever. But Hiruzen thought that Minato was stronger than Hashirama.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and he would be wrong. So stop using this argument. It's like this is Schrodinger's Minato. Like, Hiruzen says this, which is not true, but also we use it as evidence. Like, what? No. Also, he doesn't even say that. It's just your interpretation of it in the first place. So you're really stretching this interpretation to the craziest wank ever created.
Okay, so one cop-out that people have for Tobirama after this now is sort of like two things. But the first one is his, like, tandem paper bombs, which...
I cracked the deity gate!
Yeah, it cracked the deity
Hashirama
gates
level!
in the background. And the deity gates were able to survive, like, I guess the Ten Tails kind of, like, blowing itself up within the Crimson Barrier. Now, those gates do not absorb the entire Bijou Bomb's energy into, like, one gate.
And it's also a crack.
But
okay,
yeah.
It's not like he blows up the whole gate.
Yeah.
It's a crack. Like,
I like how this point was so bad. In the editing, he had to come back and be like, yeah, well, actually, that's not true what we said. So yeah, in reality, as the editing says, the text on the screen, it wasn't just a crack. It completely obliterated deity gates that beforehand were taking 10 tails Bijou bombs. And in the editing, Swag or whoever is writing it also says, well, those might have been damaged by the 10 tails Bijou bomb, so they're still unquantifiable. However, that's big cap. After the 10 tails Bijou bomb, they had no scratches on them, first of all. Second of all, those deity gates were still strong enough to hold down the 10 tails. So even if you don't want to argue it scales to the Bijou bomb, it still scales to the 10 tails power because it was holding it down. The only thing that broke it was like Jubito, but we know Jubito is stronger than the 10 tails, right? So yeah, this argument doesn't work on two levels because one, the Bijou bombs, the 10 tail Bijou bombs did less damage than the Tobirama tandem paper bomb, but also on a second level because even if it took damage beforehand, it was still strong enough to hold the 10 tails, and the bombs were still stronger than the 10 tails was. So at least, you know, in terms of physical strength. So this argument doesn't really work. And this AP feat is better than any other feat Minato has done in his entire appearances. In its entire catalog of appearances in the manga.
Tobirama doesn't have a way to actually use Tandem Paper Bomb while alive unless he just like summons an Edo mid-battle, which you'd probably have to go like grave robbing.
He runs to a graveyard.
Yeah, except he doesn't need to do that because he already used Edo Tensei. He created it. I don't know if you remember that, but he created it. He already uses it. So he already has Edo Tensei he can summon. He doesn't need to get other Edo Tensei. He can already use them. Like, what kind of argument is that even?
Recognizes that Obito is fully aware, by the way, this is Obito who's able to fight, you know, at the same speed pretty much relative to Minato, okay, like while they're fighting. Like, Obito's reacting to his attacks, phasing through Minato's attacks. You know, Minato literally gets grabbed by him and almost sucked into Kamui. So, you know, they're kind of moving at a similar speed.
I know it might be a little confusing what they were doing, but to explain it to you, they were trying to upscale Minato by scaling him to Obito, who scales to Minato. They were literally going in circle to scale Minato to Minato, which is just amazing. Also, they basically say that Kid Obito is basically as fast as Minato, which is funny because it basically means that adult Obito is scaling above Minato. So that's a thing, right? But also, Tobirama puts a mark on Jubito and paper bombs on also Jubito, which Jubito scales above Rinnegan Obito, which scales above regular Obito, which scales above 14-year-old Obito. So how are you scaling Minato to a weaker version of Obito when Tobirama is already able to react and to place tags on a way stronger version of Obito? Like, way stronger.
The next copium argument is that, you know, what about when Minato's in KCM2, which, by the way, Tobirama KCM2 after struggling with, like, Kinkaku with farts of QB chocolate.
We can talk about Kinkaku, actually, by the way, like Kinkaku and Ginkaku. Okay, so Kinkaku and Ginkaku who get dismissed and dealt with by Darui and Ino Shikacho. Okay.
Well, first of all, Darui didn't actually beat any of them in their version 2. he defeated one of them in base by sealing him, not by actually beating him. And then Inoshi Kacho also didn't beat him, they just sealed him. They couldn't beat them, they could only seal them. And also, it's funny you mentioned it's like a fart of the Ninetales. Bro, it's 6 to 7, depending on how you look at the manga, tails of Ninetales chakra. May I remind you that 6 tails was enough to beat the fuck out of Pain, to absolutely beat his ass cheeks like no tomorrow? Pain, who you scale above the 5 Kage and shit? Or maybe these days you don't anymore. But Pain, who you scale very high? Like, how are you gonna tell me that the guy who has 2 guys actually who have 6 tails amount of chakra, 6 to 7, which are stronger than some of the strongest member of Akatsuki according to you, are like weak? Come on, especially since it was an assassination attempt. And then you could argue the other one was like with another 18 people, if you want to say Gingaku and Gingaku fought alongside other people to fight Tobirama. Like, it's absolutely insane. And that's especially funny since not only the Raikage says it, but the data book also says that they're like a match in terms of like speed. So
okay, like Kinkaku getting like, you know, beat up by this like no-name guy, Kitsuchi, and who just gets like steamrolled, like just rammed into by human boulder from Choji, and just like
human boulder
taking damage, you know, like is
I like the fact that he says this no-name guy and then says his name. Like, what? But also, he wasn't beaten by either Katsuchi or Choji. First of all, Katsuchi is pretty strong in his own right. Even Seth says it in his video about Tobirama, because not only he was able to match the Gedomazo with like 8 tails amount of chakra with his mountain jutsu, but also remember he did that kind of thing with the 10 tails, right? But I think there he had some help, so he's not that fucking weak. But also, it's not like Katsuchi actually did anything to him. Like, he just punched him once and that's about it. And Choji didn't run him over. It was like fucking, I think it was Kinkaku who catched him and then threw him fucking 200 feet into the air. Like, that's just like misinformation at that point. I don't know what to tell you.
Kinkaku, who have like 6 tails worth of like, you know, version 2,
they're
like
KCM
9-tail
2
chakra.
Minato level, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, yeah, that's quite a lot. It's like 12 tails amount of 9 tails chakra. So yeah, I would say that's quite a lot.
Just so the reason this happened was because Minato was in a daze because he just found out that his student Obito was a mass murderer.
Yes, the infamous days of Minato, which brought him from KCM, which apparently is above even like, you know, Jubitara, because according to them he was already scaling to 8-Gates guy and Jubi Madara, right? So he was already 6 paths level. So with KCM 2, now he's like double 6 paths level, right? So even though he was that strong, he went from there, according to them, to being weaker than 14-year-old Obito, because they said 14-year-old Obito and Minato were relative to each other. So this motherfucker was in these days, and it was so bad that he went from 10 tails level, like 10 tails Madara level, not 10 tails Obito level, 10 tails Madara level, to weaker than teenager Obito. That's the argument they are making right now. Amazing argument, in my opinion.
yeah, so basically, when during this war arc, Minato's like really Giga Chad in like his base form, and then when he first appears, and you're like, and then he kind of falls off for some reason. You're like, what happened to him? And he falls off the moment he teleports and slashes Obito apart, and he's like, Obito, it was you.
Yeah, like.
Except there aren't any based Giga Chad Minato feats. I mean, let's take the days, right? The days was for a relatively short amount of time. After the days, even though he had KCM, he never was able to do those crazy feats against like Jubito. Why not? Because later on they're gonna bring up the feat he did against the True Seeking Orbs of Madara, and they're gonna claim, oh, he's 6 pets levels of speed, right? Why didn't he never do this thing against Jubito, even after the gaze was over and he was going to fight him full force? Maybe because he's not that fast. Also, they do this inconsistent thing where they're like, oh, he's fast enough to react to Madara, and that's like 6 pets level, but also he's like KCM Naruto level at the same time. Like, you can't really do that. You can't be like, oh, his base is 6 pets level, but his KCM without the days, just his KCM, is also below Jubito or something. Like, you can't do that. Not to mention their Teenage Obito scaling, where they say he's relative to Minato, so that means it goes Minato equal or better than Jubi Madara, who's stronger than Jubito, who's stronger than Tobirama. Perfect line of scaling. I agree.
And this is actually shown with the speech bubbles in the series. So one thing you'll notice when you're actually watching Minato start to react to things, instead of having an exclamation mark like everyone else, he has ellipses, exclamation mark, which, as crazy as it sounds, is Kishimoto's way of showing he has a delayed reaction.
Bro really said the speech bubbles. That was his argument. Bro, you don't understand. You have to scale the speech bubbles. Otherwise, you don't understand the writing, bro. The narrative. Your small brains cannot comprehend this. It's actually kind of funny that's like the thing they resolved.
Completely crazy, because not only are they claiming that Minato is at full power, which they would have to prove, which you can't prove.
Bro really said, you have to prove that the character I like was getting his ass whooped at full power, and he wasn't actually just very weakened at this time. Okay, bro.
Revelation. And what did the ellipses mean? You just have to be a sophist. It's just completely sophist and disingenuous to like deny that he's actually nerfed there.
So there can't be that we just disagree about the subject. You have to be a sophist. Bro really learned this word like a week ago, and now he used it like 4 times in this video. Like, he looked into the dictionary, how do I say disingenuous differently, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna use this every time now. Like, Jesus, bro, just because you learn a new word, you don't have to like throw it around all the time. Jesus fucking Christ.
And it also explains why he's so crazy in base form after he's not dazed anymore. He's, you know what I mean? Like,
he's like teleporting. Okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard this before. All right, right. So, Ten Tails Jinchuriki Madara is fighting Guy with the 8th gate open. Lee throws a kunai in between them so that Minato can teleport and catch the Truth Seeking Orbs and teleport away.
Except that doesn't make any sense, because that would mean that Kakashi, Gaara, 6th Gate Lee, and even 4th Gate Lee would be on the same level as 6 Pets, Madara, and Guy. The more likely interpretation is that the True Seeking Orbs are just not that fast, and they don't scale to the full power of Jubidara or 8 Gates Guy. And it would be so funny for you to argue that like Gaara is close to Might Guy and Jubidara, when literally the last chapter Kakashi mentioned how 8 Gates Guy is like tens of times stronger than the 5 Kage combined. So what, according to you, the 5 Kage with Gaara in it are actually weaker than Gaara himself, who is pretty close to 8 Gates Guy? Like, yeah, I don't know how that works. Also, like I said earlier, this feat, even if you have to consider it, it would be an outlier because he never does anything like this outside of this specific feat. He gets out of the daze on a specific point which is mentioned in the data book. Then he goes and fights Jubito, who's weaker than Jubi Madara, and he can't do any of these incredible feats you're mentioning, even though he's in KCM now. So KCM should be stronger than his base. And if anything, Tobirama is the only guy who's actually keeping up and actually putting hits on Jubito. Every time they have tagged or touched or attacked Jubito, you can go and read it. It was because of Tobirama. It was with the help of Tobirama. Find me one time they actually did anything to Jubito without Tobirama. Outside of maybe like that one time Naruto and Sasuke combined their power and made like a giant mech. He doesn't do anything on this quote-unquote six-path scale against Jubito. He doesn't do it against Black Zetsu. He doesn't do it against Jubi Madara. Like, Jubi Madara literally beats his ass while he is in Sage mode with no problem. Like, he absolutely demolishes him.
Alright, and then in the manga, 3 panels of time pass before Guy or Madara or the Truth-Seeking Orbs move at all. Like,
I like how in this argument he's trying to argue time passing due to manga panels. Like, he said 3 manga panels amount of time. Like, that's not a thing. You can't measure time in manga panels. That absolutely is not how it works. That's funny. Also, it's kind of wrong. We literally see from picture to picture that Guy actually, his fire and even his movement looks a little different. So I won't even agree with that, really.
Even though he's just like, well, I mean, you know, Big Brother is just way stronger. Like, everybody knows, right? Like, I don't even have to work to scale Hashirama above Tobirama. He just is stronger. That's a fact. And the thing is, Minato being faster than Hashirama is, like, not really... Hashirama can be stronger than him and, like, would beat him, but him being faster than Hashirama is not, like, a weird thing to say.
Yes, it is. What do you mean it's not? What's with this fucking Minato dick riding? Like, this is insane. Like, you literally say that he's relative to Kid Obito. Kid Obito was pretending to be Madara, and the whole time he was saying shit like, oh, I need to go back to my full power, or I'm a shadow of my former self. He always like was dropping shit like that, meaning that even when he was playing Madara, he was not portraying the full power Madara because he knew he wasn't strong. He wasn't as strong as the real Madara. Not to mention that Rinnegan Obito arguably gets to the level where like he scales to Madara maybe. Even then it's very questionable. So how are you gonna tell me that 14-year-old Obito scales to Madara already when Rinnegan Obito like 10 years later barely gets there? Like, what is... what? It also... I don't even know. This is like... This is insane. All that supposed speed that's above Hashirama and Madara, and he was still a rival to the Raikage. Like, what? How does that even work? How are you even saying that? Like, not only the data book says that they're like relative, but also Naruto is stated to have surpassed Minato both when he was in KCM and even Sage mode. So it's kinda insane to me to say that, like, yeah, but also he scales to like Hashirama and Madara when he's fought the Raikage multiple times and the Raikage is still alive. I'm gonna tell you something. If Madara or Hashirama faced the Raikage multiple times, he would have not been alive to tell the tale, bro. I'm gonna full stop. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Like, Tobirama he doesn't have anything like close to the 10-tail 6 paths Madara Guy interception like level of speed, right?
Yeah, except the scaling is not that crazy. We've seen characters way weaker than Jubi Madara or Hades Guy who react to those Truth-Seeking Orbs, and doesn't make Minato like a 6 paths level character. Unless you think 6 Gates Lee is a 6 paths level character. And if 6 Gates Lee is a 6 paths level character, then why was he fucking fighting Haku in the war arc? Like, or even then, if he's 6 paths during fighting Madara, why wasn't he more useful? Why was 8 gates necessary for Guy if Lee could have just went 6 gates and help a lot, essentially, according to you?
Right, like, it's just find a feat of Tobirama dunking on Minato.
Sure. His tandem paper bombs were able to destroy the deity gates of Hashirama, which contained the Ten Tails Bijou Bomb blast, and also even after the blast was over, they were still strong enough to hold the Ten Tails down. And then Tobirama, with some specific paper bombs, was able to absolutely obliterate them, not crack them like Swagkage mentioned, right? That's a better feat than any feat we've ever seen from Minato in terms of AP or durability. So that's one. Second, him actually reacting to Madara. Tobirama reacts to Madara, and actually they have a fight. And if you want to include the anime shit, because you're trying to do argument for Minato, I'm gonna include the opening 16, I think is, where we see that Madara and Tobirama are actually fighting and they're reacting to each other. So you know something? Yeah, put that there too. He scales to Madara. Also, even after Madara beat him, because yeah, Madara's stronger obviously, but he even says to Tobirama, this Edo is nerfing you very much, Tobirama. Back in the day, you used to be the fastest. Now you're not anymore because of this Edo, right? Meaning that Tobirama was not only faster than Hashirama and Madara back in the day, but also he has attacks that scale to the deity gates of Hashirama, which are, I would say, around 10 tails level. Not quite Jubito level, but 10 tails level. So yeah, that's better than anything Minato has ever shown. He literally got fucked by a fucking nail, by the like toenail of the fucking Nine Tails.
Like the Raikage thought that like Minato was invincible and would never be surpassed.
Putting aside the fact that you're kind of stretching what he was saying to unbelievable degrees, that's cool. It's a cool statement from the Raikage hyping Minato up. But you know who's hyping Tobirama up? Madara fucking Uchiha. Okay? When Raikage says, oh my god, Minato was so fast, he was the fastest ever, you're like, whoa, that's very impressive. Makes him stronger than the fucking Sage of the Six Paths or some shit. But when Madara Uchiha says that Tobirama was the fastest of their era, meaning faster than Madara and Hashirama, you're like, oh, that could mean anything. Again, just showing bias. If you were charitable, you could use those like very high-end feats for both of the characters and very low-end feats for both of the characters, and then where they would scale in the middle, and that would be fine. You could be like, listen, at its peak, Tobirama scales to the 10 tails and like to higher in speed than Hashirama and Madara, and like Minato scales to like 8 gates guy, and in terms of AP, actually don't know because I don't think Minato has any crazy AP outside of like fighting Killer Bee or something. So yeah, but like still, you could have done that at least. It would have been a good fate interpretation or a good fate way of like scaling stuff, but you're not doing that. You're just taking that one statement from the Raikage and ignoring the statement from fucking Madara Uchiha. So like, yeah. Also again, the Raikage is wrong multiple times. He's literally proved wrong in this chapter by B being able to overpower him and by Naruto being able to outspeed him. So yeah, he's a dumbass.
And he's fought Minato numerous times.
Oh, it's funny, you mentioned how they fought multiple times, but you don't go to the, you know, conclusion that means that they must have been somewhat relative if neither of them got fucking killed. Interesting.
Yeah, so Minato has better AP.
No, he doesn't. The best you have scaled him is to the Raikage and Killer Bee. And even shitty Edo Tensei Tobirama scales to Hiruzen, who's stated to be above the 5 Kage. So even using that lane of scaling for Tobirama with the shittiest ever reincarnation, I could still scale him relative to your best scaling for Minato's AP, which is pretty sad. I didn't even mention the fucking, you know, Ten Tails fiasco with the deity gates and the paper bombs and stuff.
Right, and this is another thing I wanted to mention for speed, is that Tobirama is not moving as fast as KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto. But Minato is able to keep up with him later in the fight.
You know, it's kind of funny you mentioned that. Well, showing the clip of Tobirama being literally the one who helps them do all those feats, who literally teleports those two Bijou avatars. Isn't that a funny thing? How you're like, oh, Tobirama? He can't even keep up. Well, he's fucking helping them Well, he's the only reason they even put a scratch on Jubito because he teleported them there. That's so weird. That's so strange, isn't it? That like he can just do that. He's just like relative to KCM2, Naruto, and KCM Minato, huh? Very interesting. Very strange how that's the case, huh?
Obi, that's not those.
But then like Minato sees Kamui and he just figures it out, right? He's just like, oh, okay, so he can't attack and phase through stuff at the same time. But
now, I might be wrong about this one, but don't Danzo's lackeys also figure out Kamui relatively easily, like in a short amount of time? So is this the intelligent fit you really think it is?
the point is they should be comparable, bare minimum, like 100%. You have to be extremely dishonest to say that Tobirama is running circles around Minato mentally. Like, it's just not the case.
Well, except you haven't really shown that many intelligence feats. You've shown the thing with Obito, which is pretty smart, but if I remember correctly, again, I think Danzo's lackeys also were able to find that out. So that's one. Whereas Tobirama, on the other hand, has invented like 3 of the most craziest jutsus, most overpowered, most complex jutsus ever in Naruto: the Shadow Clone, the Reaper Dead Seal, and the Flying Raijin. So that's one. He invented the village structures and stuff that like every village essentially will come to copy. He invented the tuning exams and the whole ranking system essentially. And aside from all of these, he has multiple... Actually, if I had to think about it, we only see him while making tactical decisions. Like, for example, the first thing he does when he comes back as an Edo Tensei in like Shippuden, he literally explains an Uchiha how the Sharingan works. Like, you understand how insane that is, that he has to explain, like he can explain the Sharingan to an Uchiha? That's insane, okay? The second of all, we see him in the Jubito fight. He's the strategist there. He's the one taking command. He makes all the fucking strategies there. Minato had one strategy: go and attack Jubito, and he got fucking fucked. So you can say whatever you want, but as far as intelligence feats go, Minato's not doing that well, whereas Tobirama is doing pretty okay. And that's about it, guys. A 40 minutes, almost 50 minutes video about me debunking why Tobirama isn't just getting stomped by Minato. I probably should make just a Minato versus Tobirama, where I put some of their feats, some of their lower, some of their higher end feats. I don't know, maybe make a video about it or something, but I feel like it wouldn't get traction these days. But yeah, this was a very, if you ask me, it was a pretty biased video. Like, not even the conclusions they were getting at, but even the way they were talking about Minato and Tobirama, it basically is made to favor Minato, to take the most charitable interpretations you can have about Minato and give them as a fact, and take the most uncharitable interpretation of Tobirama and give it as fact. Take the most gruesome way you could downscale Tobirama, ignoring all his feats, all his statements, everything, and take everything said about Minato for granted. But that's about it. Thank you for watching. See you next time. And that's about it. Goodbye.